The creature retreated to deep water to recover from Amanda's electromagnetic attack, but she knew it would be back. This time, it would not underestimate her, and it would not play games. The next encounter would be a fight to the death, and Amanda intended to make sure she was the one who survived. She spent the next day analyzing the tissue samples she had collected from the stunned monster. Her portable laboratory equipment gave her detailed information about the creature's biology and confirmed several important theories. The monster's bioelectric organs were incredibly powerful, but also incredibly sensitive to electromagnetic interference. More importantly, Amanda discovered that the creature stored massive amounts of electrical energy in specialized cells throughout its body. These cells were what allowed it to generate the intense bioluminescent displays and probably powered other abilities she had not seen yet. But they were also the monster's greatest weakness because they made its entire nervous system vulnerable to feedback loops. Amanda found something else in the tissue samples that gave her hope. The creature's blood chemistry showed it was adapted for both underwater and space environments. That explained how it could travel between planets, but it also meant the monster had to maintain a very specific internal pressure and chemical balance to survive. The volcanic activity on the island could disrupt that balance. Amanda had noticed steam vents and hot springs scattered across the rocky landscape. These geological features produced sulfur compounds and other chemicals that would be toxic to most Earth sea life. They might have the same effect on her alien enemy. Amanda began preparing the island for war. She rigged every steam vent and hot spring with explosive charges made from her emergency flares. When detonated, they would release clouds of superheated toxic gas across the entire shoreline. Any creature trying to come out of the water would be forced to breathe the poisonous atmosphere. She also prepared more electromagnetic traps using every piece of electronic equipment she had left. Her communication radio, her computer, even her medical scanner were converted into weapons designed to overload the creature's bioelectric system. Amanda placed them at strategic points around the island where the monster would have to pass to reach her. The most important part of her plan involved the island's underwater geography. Amanda's depth scanner showed a series of underwater caves and volcanic vents around the base of the island. These features created powerful currents and temperature variations that could be used to her advantage. Amanda spent hours studying the current patterns and tidal flows around the island. She discovered that the underwater volcanic activity created predictable upwellings of superheated water at certain times during the day. If she could lure the creature into those areas when the thermal vents were most active, it would be like cooking the monster alive. As the sun set on her 5th day on the island, Amanda activated her final preparations. She set her emergency beacon to broadcast a distress signal that would attract the creature's attention while simultaneously generating electromagnetic interference. Then she positioned herself at the highest point on the island where she could observe the entire battlefield. The creature appeared right on schedule. Amanda saw the familiar blue glow rising from the depths as the monster approached for what it clearly intended to be their final confrontation. This time there was no hesitation or game playing. The massive form rose directly out of the water, with obvious hostile intent. But something was different about the creature's appearance. Its bioluminescent patterns were more intense than before, and Amanda could see additional organs glowing along its tentacles. The monster had been preparing for this fight just as much as she had. It was not going to make the same mistakes again. The creature's first attack was devastating. Instead of using its tentacles to grab and crush, it began generating massive, electrical discharges that lit up the entire ocean around the island. Bolts of bioelectric energy shot through the water and struck the rocks where Amanda had set up her traps. Her carefully prepared electromagnetic devices exploded in showers of sparks and burning metal. Amanda realized the monster had learned from their previous encounter. It was destroying her weapons before they could be used against it. This creature was not just intelligent, it was capable of tactical thinking and adaptive strategy. She was fighting an alien general, not just an alien predator. The electrical bombardment forced Amanda to retreat from her observation post. Lightning-like discharges followed her as she ran across the island, dodging between rocks and trying to reach her backup position. The creature was toying with her again, but this time it was a deadly game with no intention of letting her survive. When Amanda reached the center of the island, she activated her first line of real defenses. The volcanic steam vents erupted simultaneously, releasing clouds of toxic gas across the shoreline. The creature's advance stopped as the poisonous atmosphere forced it to retreat slightly toward the water. But the monster adapted quickly to this threat as well. Amanda watched in amazement as the creature's skin changed color and texture. Special organs opened along its body that seemed to filter the toxic air. Within minutes, it was advancing again through the poisonous clouds as if they were nothing, more than morning mist. Amanda was running out of options, and the creature knew it. The massive tentacles began systematically destroying every piece of equipment and shelter on the island. Her escape pod was crushed like an empty can. Her research station was smashed to pieces. The monster was eliminating any resources she might use to defend herself or survive. That was when Amanda put the final phase of her plan into action. Instead of running away from the creature, she began running toward the water. This was the last thing the monster expected from its prey, and for a moment it hesitated in confusion. Amanda dove into the ocean and began swimming directly toward the underwater volcanic vents she had discovered. The creature followed immediately, sensing that its prey was trying to escape. The massive form moved through the water with terrifying speed while tentacles reached out to grab the fleeing human. But Amanda had timed her dive perfectly. As the creature pursued her into the deeper water, the underwater thermal vents reached their peak activity cycle. Superheated water began rising from the ocean floor, carrying dissolved sulfur and other toxic minerals with it. The temperature around. Amanda rose dramatically, but she had prepared for this by taking stimulants from her medical kit to help her body cope with the extreme conditions. The creature, however, was caught completely off guard by the sudden environmental change. The monster's bioelectric organs began malfunctioning as the heated toxic water interfered with their chemical processes. Its bioluminescent displays flickered and went out while its tentacles thrashed wildly trying to escape the thermal updraft. For the second time, Amanda had used the creature's own biology against it. But this time she was not finished with just stunning her enemy. While the creature was disabled by the toxic heat, Amanda swam closer and attached her remaining explosive charges directly to its body. She had saved her most powerful flares for this moment and placed them strategically near what her tissue analysis had shown were the monster's most vital organs. The explosions ripped through the creature's body while it was trapped in the superheated water. Massive wounds opened along its tentacles and body cavity, while its internal organs were damaged by both the blasts and the thermal shock. The galaxy's most feared predator was dying, and it knew it. In desperation, the creature made one final attempt to kill Amanda before it died. Using the last of its strength, it wrapped several damaged tentacles around her and began dragging her toward the deepest part of the ocean. If it was going to die, then its prey would die with it. But Amanda had one. More surprise prepared for her enemy. Amanda spent the fourth day studying everything she had recorded about the creature. She played back the videos over and over, looking for patterns in its movements and behavior. The monster was clearly intelligent, but intelligence alone did not make something unbeatable. Even the smartest predators had habits and weaknesses. The bioluminescent display patterns seemed to follow certain rules. Amanda noticed that certain colors always appeared in the same sequence, and the timing between pulses was remarkably consistent. This suggested the creature's nervous system operated on predictable cycles just like Earth animals. More importantly, she observed that the tentacles moved in coordination with the light patterns. When bright blue lights pulsed across its body, the tentacles would extend and contract in rhythm. This meant the creature's bioluminescence was directly connected to its motor functions. If she could disrupt one, she might be able to affect the other. Amanda also noticed something else interesting in her recordings. During the most elaborate parts of its display, the creature's eyes would lose focus for brief moments. The same thing happened with electric eels and other bioelectric animals on Earth when they used their electrical abilities. The energy discharge interfered with their own nervous systems for split seconds. She began forming a plan based on these observations. The creature was using bioelectricity to power its light displays and probably other functions as well. All bioelectric animals had one major weakness. Their own electrical fields could be turned against them under the right conditions. Amanda spent hours going through her research equipment looking for anything that could generate or conduct electricity. Her portable scanner had a small electrical power source, and she had some basic tools with metal components. It was not much, but it might be enough if she was clever about how she used it. The real breakthrough came when she analyzed samples of the island's volcanic rock. The mineral composition included high concentrations of iron oxide and copper deposits. These metals could conduct electricity, and more importantly, they could create electrical feedback loops if arranged properly. As evening approached, Amanda put her plan into action. She used her tools to break off pieces of the copper-rich rock and arranged them in a circle around a tidal pool near the water's edge. Then she connected her scanner's power source to the metal pieces using wire from her damaged equipment. The trap was simple, but based on solid scientific principles. When the creature extended its tentacles into the tidal pool, the electrical current would flow through the seawater and create a feedback loop with its bioelectric system. At minimum, it would cause pain and confusion. At best, it might temporarily disable some of its functions. Amanda hid behind the rocks again and waited. She did not have to wait long. As darkness fell, the familiar blue glow appeared in the water around the island. The creature was returning for another round of their deadly game. This time, the monster was less cautious. It had studied her behavior the night before and apparently decided she was not dangerous. The massive tentacles broke the surface and immediately began reaching toward her camp. Several of them wrapped around the rocks where she had been hiding before. When the tentacles found nothing, the creature pulled more of its body out of the water. Amanda watched as it methodically searched the area looking for her. Its bioluminescent patterns showed frustration and growing hunger. The game phase was ending, and the real hunt was beginning. One of the searching tentacles discovered the tidal pool Amanda had prepared. The electrical components were hidden under the water, but the creature seemed attracted to something about the setup. Maybe it sensed the metal or detected the faint electrical field from her scanner. The tentacle moved closer to investigate. Amanda held her breath as the massive appendage hovered just above the water. This was her one chance. If the trap failed, she would be completely helpless against the angry monster. The tentacle touched the water surface, and immediately the electrical feedback began. Bright sparks flashed where the metal contacted the seawater, and the creature's own bioelectric field was amplified and reflected back through its nervous system. The effect was instant and dramatic. The monster let out a sound Amanda felt in her bones, a deep vibration that shook the entire island. All of its tentacles spasmed and contracted while chaotic light patterns flashed across its skin. For the first time since their encounter began, the creature appeared to be in distress, but Amanda had underestimated how intelligent her opponent was. Instead of fleeing in panic, the creature quickly figured out what was happening. It yanked the affected tentacle out of the water and used another one to smash her electrical trap. Metal pieces scattered across the beach as the monster destroyed her carefully prepared setup. The creature turned its massive eyes toward Amanda's new hiding spot with what looked like genuine anger. The bioluminescent patterns on its skin changed to deep red and orange colors that pulsed rapidly like warning signals. Amanda realized she had just made a very dangerous enemy much more dangerous. But she had also learned something crucial. The electrical feedback had worked even better than expected. For several seconds, the creature had been completely unable to control its movements. Its bioelectric system was definitely vulnerable to interference, and now Amanda knew exactly how to exploit that weakness. The monster began moving toward her position with obvious hostile intent. The tentacles reached out methodically to search every possible hiding place. This was no longer a game or an elaborate hunt. The creature was angry and wanted to end this quickly. Amanda waited until the last possible moment before making her move. As a massive tentacle wrapped around the rock she was hiding behind, she activated her emergency flare and threw it directly at the creature's face. The bright chemical light exploded right between its eyes, causing it to recoil in surprise. While the monster was momentarily blinded, Amanda ran across the beach toward her backup supplies. She had prepared several more electrical devices using components from her escape pod. The creature's tentacles lashed out, trying to catch her, but the flare had disrupted its coordination enough to give her a few precious seconds. Amanda reached her secondary position and immediately activated another electrical trap. This one was more powerful because she had used the pod's main battery instead of just her scanner. When the pursuing tentacle hit the electrified metal, the feedback was strong enough to send the creature writhing backward into the water. But Amanda was not finished. While the monster was recovering, she grabbed her emergency beacon and set it to transmit on all frequencies at maximum power. The electromagnetic signal would interfere with any bioelectric creature within range, and she cranked the power up until the device started smoking. The effect on the creature was immediate and devastating. Its entire body convulsed as the electromagnetic pulse disrupted every electrical process in its nervous system. The bioluminescent patches flickered wildly before going completely dark. For the first time in probably thousands of years, the galaxy's apex predator was helpless. Amanda approached the stunned creature carefully. It was still breathing but could barely move. This was her chance to study the monster up close and learn everything she could about its anatomy. She pulled out her sampling tools and began collecting tissue specimens while the creature was unable to defend itself. The samples would tell her exactly how the monster's bioelectric system worked and, more importantly, how to shut it down permanently. Amanda Cross had just done something no other being in the galaxy had ever accomplished. She had defeated the legendary Void Kraken in single combat, using nothing but human intelligence and scientific knowledge. But she also knew the creature would recover eventually, and when it did, it would be absolutely furious. The creature rose from the depths as the alien sun disappeared below the horizon. Amanda saw it first as a shadow moving under the water near the edge of the island. Her bioscanner went wild with readings as something massive approached from the ocean floor. At first, only the tips of tentacles broke the surface. They moved slowly through the water like giant snakes testing the air above. Each tentacle was thicker than Amanda's body and covered in what looked like suckers the size of dinner plates. The skin changed colors as she watched, shifting from deep purple to pale blue to almost transparent. More tentacles appeared until Amanda counted at least 8 of them reaching up from the water. They spread out in a circle around the small island like the creature was surrounding her. She pressed herself against the volcanic rocks and tried to stay perfectly still while she watched the alien monster reveal itself. The main body came up next. Amanda's mouth fell open as she saw how truly enormous the thing was. The central mass looked like a combination of squid and octopus, but it was bigger than any whale that ever lived on Earth. Bioluminescent patches covered its skin and pulsed with different colored lights. 2 massive eyes opened on the front of its body and looked directly at Amanda's hiding spot. Those eyes were intelligent. Amanda could tell right away that this was not just some big, dumb animal. The way it moved and studied the island showed planning and thought. This creature was a hunter that knew exactly what it was doing. It had probably been watching her since she arrived, and now it was ready to make its move. The monster slowly pulled itself partway onto the island using its powerful tentacles. Water poured off its huge body as it moved closer to Amanda's camp. She estimated it was at least 40 feet tall and twice as long, with tentacles that could reach much further. This thing could grab her from anywhere on the small island. Strange sounds came from the creature as it investigated her equipment. Low-frequency rumbles that Amanda felt in her chest more than heard with her ears. The sounds seemed to change pitch and pattern like some kind of language. Maybe it was trying to communicate, or maybe it was just the alien version of a dinner bell. The bioluminescent patches on its skin started flashing in complex patterns. Waves of light traveled along its tentacles and across its body, creating an amazing display. Amanda found herself staring at the lights, even though her rational mind told her this might be some kind of hypnotic hunting technique. She forced herself to look away and focus on taking notes. If she was going to survive this encounter, she needed to understand how this predator operated. Amanda had spent years studying Earth's most dangerous ocean animals, and she knew that even the smartest hunters followed certain patterns. The creature seemed to be testing her reactions. It would make a movement toward her position and then stop to see what she would do. When Amanda stayed hidden, it would try a different approach. The tentacles reached out to touch her equipment and her shelter, but never quite grabbed anything important. This was clearly a game to the monster. It was playing with its food before eating it. Amanda had seen sharks and killer whales do the same thing with their prey. The difference was that this alien predator was much smarter than any Earth animal. It was trying to understand her behavior before deciding how to kill her. One tentacle wrapped around her water filter and lifted it up for inspection. The creature's big eyes focused on the device, while bioluminescent patterns flickered across its skin. After a few seconds, it gently placed the filter back down exactly where it had been. The message was clear. It could take anything it wanted, but chose not to yet. Amanda realized the creature was trying to frighten her into running. Most prey animals would panic and flee when faced with such an overwhelming predator. The chase and capture were probably part of how this thing liked to hunt. But Amanda was not most prey animals. She was a human being with a brain that could think and plan. She stayed perfectly still and continued observing the monster's behavior. This seemed to confuse it, because the light patterns on its skin changed to different colors and rhythms. Maybe it was not used to prey, that did not run away screaming. The creature began a more elaborate display. All 8 tentacles rose up into the air and started moving in a complex dance, while bright lights pulsed across its entire body. The low-frequency sounds got louder and more varied. Amanda felt the vibrations through the rocks she was hiding behind. Instead of being terrified, Amanda found herself fascinated by the show. This was an incredible discovery, an intelligent alien predator with sophisticated communication abilities and advanced hunting behaviors. She carefully filmed everything with her camera while taking detailed notes about the creature's anatomy and movements. Her scientific excitement must have shown because the monster suddenly stopped its display and focused both massive eyes directly on her hiding spot. For a long moment they stared at each other across the beach. Amanda saw intelligence and curiosity in those alien eyes, along with something that might have been surprise. The creature had expected fear, but found interest instead. This was clearly not how its hunts usually went. Amanda could almost see it, thinking and reconsidering its approach. She had managed to do something no other prey had probably ever done. She had made the predator uncertain. Slowly, the monster began to retreat back into the water. Its tentacles unwrapped from around the island, and its huge body sank below the surface. But Amanda could tell it was not giving up. This was just a tactical withdrawal while it figured out a new strategy. The bioluminescent glow faded as the creature disappeared into the deep water. Amanda stayed hidden for another hour before she felt safe enough to move. When she finally came out from behind the rocks, she found that the monster had left her equipment completely undamaged. Everything was exactly where she had left it. She checked her bioscanner and found the creature's massive signature moving in slow circles around the island about 50 meters down. It was still watching and waiting. Amanda knew this was just the beginning of a very dangerous game, but she also knew something the monster probably did not expect. Amanda Cross understood predators better than most people understood themselves. She had spent her whole career studying how apex predators thought and hunted. Every successful predator followed certain rules and patterns no matter how intelligent they were. This alien monster might be bigger and stronger and smarter than anything on Earth, but it was still a predator. And every predator had weaknesses that could be exploited by prey smart enough to find them. Amanda just had to figure out what those weaknesses were before the creature decided to stop playing games and finish its hunt. She spent the rest of the night preparing for round 2 of their deadly encounter. Amanda Cross watched the stars through the cracked window of her escape pod as it fell toward the blue planet below. The research ship Darwin's Legacy was now just burning metal floating in space behind her. 3 years of work studying alien ocean life was gone in minutes when the engine exploded. She was the only one who made it to the pods before the ship broke apart. The pod shook as it hit the atmosphere. Amanda held tight to her seat and watched the ocean get bigger and bigger through the window. This planet was mostly water with small islands scattered across its surface. The computer said the air was good to breathe and the water was safe. That was something, at least. The pod hit the water hard and bounced twice before it stopped moving. Amanda waited for the systems to check everything before she opened the door. Salt air filled her nose as she looked out at endless blue water. In the distance, she could see a small island with black rocks and some green plants growing on it. The pod's motor was still working, so she started it up and headed for the island. It took her 20 minutes to reach the shore. The island was bigger than it looked from the water. Black volcanic rock made up most of it, with patches of strange blue-green plants growing in the cracks. A small beach of black sand gave her a place to pull the pod out of the water. Amanda grabbed her emergency pack and her research equipment before stepping onto the alien world. The gravity felt normal, and the air smelled clean with a hint of sulfur from old volcanic activity. Amanda set up her basic shelter using the pod's emergency supplies. A small tent gave her protection from the wind, and a water filter would keep her from getting sick. Her emergency food would last maybe 10 days if she was careful. The communication equipment was damaged, but she might be able to fix it with time. As the alien sun set, Amanda started a small fire using driftwood from the beach. The flames felt good in the cool evening air. She opened one of her food packets and ate slowly while looking at her scanner readings. The ocean around the island was deep. Very deep. Her equipment showed massive trenches going down further than her sensors could measure. Something was moving down there. The bioscanner picked up life signs, but they were too far down to get clear readings. Whatever lived in those depths was big. Very big. Amanda made notes in her journal about everything she observed. Even if she was stuck here, she was still a scientist, and this was still valuable research. The first night passed quietly except for the sound of waves on the shore. Amanda woke up feeling stiff but alive. She spent the morning exploring the island and setting up better equipment. The plants were unlike anything on Earth, but they seemed harmless. Small creatures that looked like purple crabs scuttled between the rocks. Everything was peaceful. By afternoon, Amanda had her main computer working and started analyzing the water samples she collected. The ocean chemistry was similar to Earth's oceans, but with some unusual minerals she had never seen before. The bioscanner was picking up more movement in the deep water, but still nothing she could identify clearly. That evening, Amanda noticed the water around the island acting strange. Currents that had been flowing one way in the morning were now moving in completely different directions. The temperature readings from her sensors showed the water getting warmer in some spots and colder in others. It made no sense according to normal ocean behavior. The purple crab creatures disappeared. Amanda noticed this while collecting more samples near the shore. In the morning, they had been everywhere, but now she could not find even one. The small fish she had seen swimming near the surface were also gone. Even the seabirds that had been diving for food were nowhere to be seen. Amanda checked her bioscanner again. The readings from the deep ocean were stronger now. Whatever was down there was moving closer to the surface, much closer. She started to feel worried for the first time since landing on the planet. Her training told her that when all the local wildlife suddenly disappears, it usually means a big predator is coming. She spent the rest of the day moving her equipment higher up on the island away from the water. The volcanic rocks gave her several good spots to set up observation points where she could watch the ocean safely. Amanda also prepared her emergency flares and the few defensive tools she had in case something dangerous came out of the water. As the second night fell, the ocean became perfectly still. No waves, no current. Nothing moved on the surface. Amanda had never seen water so calm, and it made her nervous. She kept her fire small and stayed alert while monitoring her equipment. The bioscanner was going crazy with readings, but still could not identify what was causing them. Around midnight, the water started to glow. A soft blue light spread out from somewhere deep below and slowly got brighter. Amanda watched through her binoculars as the light pulsed in patterns like some kind of signal. She started recording everything with her camera and taking detailed notes. The glowing stopped suddenly and the ocean went dark again. Amanda waited, but nothing happened for the rest of the night. She dozed fitfully in her tent with one hand on her emergency beacon. Something was definitely out there, and it knew she was on the island. The third morning brought new surprises. The tide had gone out much further than normal, leaving strange marks in the sand. They looked almost like tentacle prints, but they were huge, each one bigger than Amanda's whole body. Whatever made them had come right up to the edge of her camp during the night. Amanda followed the marks back to the water and found something that made her blood run cold. Pieces of metal from other escape pods were scattered on the beach. Old pieces that had been in the water for a long time. She was not the first person to crash on this planet, and from the look of things, she would not be the first to disappear either. Her hands shook as she sent out another distress signal on her emergency beacon. No answer came back. Amanda was alone, on an island with something big and dangerous living in the water around her, something that had apparently eaten other travelers who ended up in the same situation. But Amanda Cross was not just any traveler. She was a marine biologist who had spent years studying the most dangerous predators in Earth's oceans. She knew how predators thought and how they hunted. If something was coming for her, she would be ready for it. The question was whether her knowledge of Earth's ocean killers would help her against whatever alien monster lived in these alien waters. She spent the day preparing defenses and studying everything she could about her new enemy. Night was coming again, and Amanda had a feeling. The real hunt was about to begin. Captain Lisa Martinez looked at the two objects that Titan had placed before her and understood that this moment would be remembered by both species for generations to come. The sharp stone weapon glinted in the filtered sunlight, while the piece of alien fruit seemed to glow with its own inner light, as if it contained the essence of life on this strange and wonderful planet that her crew had traveled so far to explore. She reached for the fruit without hesitation and picked it up gently while looking directly into Titan's enormous eyes to show that her choice was deliberate and meaningful rather than random or impulsive. The massive creature's bioluminescent patterns immediately shifted to configurations that Dr. Amy Foster's equipment identified as expressions of surprise and what could only be described as relief. Lisa used her knife to carefully cut the fruit in half and offered one portion back to Titan while keeping the other for herself. The gesture was symbolic of sharing and cooperation rather than taking and consuming, which demonstrated that humans understood the value of mutual benefit over individual gain when dealing with other intelligent beings. Titan accepted the offered fruit with one of its smaller appendages and consumed it while maintaining eye contact with Lisa in what appeared to be a formal acceptance of her gesture of friendship and respect. The other creatures around the clearing began producing harmonious patterns of sound and light that created an almost musical atmosphere that seemed to celebrate the successful completion of the testing process. Amy was recording everything while analyzing the complex changes in the aliens' communication patterns that indicated a fundamental shift in their attitude toward the human visitors. The creatures were no longer treating them as potential threats or curiosities, but rather as equals who had proven themselves worthy of respect and consideration within their society. Sergeant Tony Blake relaxed his defensive posture as it became clear that the tense examination period had ended successfully and that the aliens now viewed the humans as friends rather than enemies. Kelly Moore was transmitting the historic moment back to Commander Jake Sullivan aboard the UES Liberty, while also preparing to establish more formal communication protocols with the alien civilization. Over the following hours, Titan and the other creatures began sharing information about their society and their understanding of the universe through increasingly sophisticated exchanges that combined gestures, sounds, bioluminescent displays, and what appeared to be direct transfer of electromagnetic data between their natural biological systems and the human technological equipment. Amy worked frantically to develop translation algorithms that could convert the aliens' complex multimodal communication into concepts that humans could understand, while also finding ways to express human ideas using the aliens' preferred methods of information exchange. The breakthrough came when she realized that the creatures thought in terms of mathematical relationships and environmental harmonies rather than the linear verbal patterns that humans used. The aliens revealed that they were part of a planetary civilization that had existed for thousands of years and had developed technologies based on biological engineering and environmental integration rather than the mechanical and electronic approaches that humans had pursued. Their cities were living ecosystems that grew rather than being built, and their transportation systems used controlled biological processes rather than engines and fuel. Titan began asking questions about human civilization and technology through the newly established communication protocols, and Lisa found herself serving as an ambassador for her entire species as she tried to explain concepts like space travel, artificial intelligence, and planetary colonization to beings who had taken a completely different path of development. The most challenging moment came when Titan asked what could only be translated as a fundamental question about human nature and intentions regarding other intelligent species. The massive creature wanted to understand whether humans represented a threat or an opportunity for the many civilizations that existed throughout this region of the galaxy. Lisa realized that Titan was not just speaking for the creatures on this planet, but was apparently in communication with other intelligent species across multiple star systems, and that her answers would be shared with a galactic community that humanity had never known existed. The responsibility of representing her entire species in this cosmic conversation was overwhelming, but she knew that honesty was the only approach that could lead to positive long-term relationships. Titan sized her up with those enormous intelligent eyes as the creature prepared to ask the question that would determine humanity's place in the galactic community. The bioluminescent patterns across its massive form shifted to configurations that indicated formal diplomatic protocol as it began the inquiry that would shape the future of human expansion into space. The translation came through Amy's equipment. As a choice between two fundamental approaches to existence among the stars, Titan was asking whether humans would represent what could be translated as the weak path of fear and aggression, or the strong path of cooperation and wisdom when they encountered other forms of life during their expansion into the galaxy. Lisa smiled as she realized that the creature was essentially asking the same question that she had been asking herself throughout this entire first contact experience. The expression seemed to fascinate Titan and the other aliens, who had apparently never seen this particular human facial configuration before and were trying to understand its meaning through their various sensing systems. "You want to know about human strength," Lisa said, as Amy's equipment converted her words into the complex multimodal patterns that the aliens used for communication. "Our weak side is our individual fragility, our short lifespans, our small size compared to beings like you. Our strong side is that we never face anything alone." She gestured toward her crew members and then toward the sky where the UES Liberty waited in orbit with Commander Sullivan and the rest of her team. "We adapt, we learn, we help each other overcome any obstacle that we encounter. We survive by working together and by finding ways to turn our weaknesses into strengths through cooperation and mutual support. Lisa paused as she saw Titan's bioluminescent patterns shift to configurations that suggested deep consideration of her words. So I will ask you the same question that you asked me. Do you want to meet our weak side or our strong side? Because either way you are meeting all of humanity and everything that we represent as a species. Titan's response came in the form of what could only be described as laughter, expressed through patterns of light and sound that created a joyful harmony among all the creatures in the clearing. The massive being moved closer to Lisa and gently touched her helmet with one appendage, in what appeared to be a gesture of greeting and acceptance. Amy's equipment detected new communication frequencies opening up as Titan began transmitting information about the human encounter to other civilizations across the galaxy. The message that went out to the stars carried Lisa's words about human cooperation and adaptability, along with detailed records of how the first contact had been conducted with wisdom and respect on both sides. In the months that followed the establishment of the communication relay between Earth and the galactic community, Lisa often thought about that moment when Titan had asked her to define humanity's nature. Her answer had opened doors to technologies and knowledge that would transform human civilization, while also establishing the reputation that would guide humanity's relationships with dozens of intelligent species across the galaxy. The final entry in her mission log noted that the most important discovery had not been the alien technology or the galactic community, but rather the confirmation that human values of cooperation and mutual respect were recognized and valued by civilizations that had thousands of years more experience with the challenges and opportunities of life among the stars.